Okay, team, let's finish off here with absolute and relative value. If you look at the illustrations that I have down here from Edgar Rothermick's GEM books, you can see that in the illustration on the left-hand side, region number 1 is being moved over to the right. And even though I'm trying to move it over perhaps a bit farther than I would like to, when I do actually move it, it is moving relative to its current position in the grid. So you can see that this is a little bit off kilter. Let's call this 1 division away from bar 1. Well, when I move it over to bar 4, it is 1 division away from bar 4 relative to its current position. Let's look at absolute. When we talk about an absolute value, when we move something over to another position, it is going to completely disregard its current relative position. So going back to my example, if this is only 1 division away from bar 1, guess what's going to happen? Logic is going to disregard its relative position, and it is going to place it in an absolute position right on the bar. Why is this of benefit? Well, you try and move something and you don't want to deal with all the riffraff of ticks and divisions and all that. And so you just decide to empower your workflow and you choose the absolute value. Conversely, with relative value, something is off of the grid, it's working in that current state, and you want to move it, let's say 4, 5, 6 bars later, but you don't necessarily want to change the relationship to its current position. That's when you would use relative value. So let's look at this a little bit closer. I'm inside of Snap to Grid. You can see that I have snap regions to relative value. This is what works for me as my default. You can also select absolute value, and I do believe there's a key command which allows you to go back and forth. So what we're going to do here is leave this on relative value. And obviously, because I am on the grid, this is not necessarily going to be a clear example unless I quite literally move this off of the grid. So let's do that now. And you can see that this is now off of the grid. There is a bit of space there. All right. So then, if I move this region over to the right, bear in mind my snap to grid is set to bar. I drag this over to bar 14. At the moment, it doesn't look like anything has really happened, but if I zoom in by means of the zoom tool, you can see that same space is still there. The same space that we were considering before, it's still there. So this means that when you move a region relative to its current position, that's where it's going to be placed. This will make a lot more sense after this next example. That same space we've been talking about, it's still there. The only thing that's going to change now is that I'm going to change from relative to absolute value. I'm going to do it here in the menu bar. And so this time, when I drag over to bar 14, something else has happened. Let's take a closer look. This region has now perfectly aligned to an absolute time, to the downbeat, so that this specific sample lands on the 1 or the downbeat of bar 14. This is where these two things differentiate. You're going to need both of them, and you will find which one is relevant to you. For me, I love the idea of being able to move things to their relative position, and I'll explain a little bit more why. Let's say I create an edit from here. I don't know, maybe I just take off the first beat of this specific region. Well, again, when I try and move this over, because I have this set to snap regions to relative value, when I drag this over, there's not a lot of guesswork that has to happen in my brain because I know exactly where this is going to be positioned. On the other hand, If I have this set to absolute and I try and pull that same move, we know that's not going to happen because I am disregarding the fact that I trimmed off one beat, and this is going straight to bar 14 or 13, depending on where you move it, and it is moving based on absolute time. They obviously both have their benefits, and this is something that you're going to have to toggle back and forth throughout any given session. But the truth is that you need to spend some time with it to understand how you're going to utilize this great feature. Bear in mind, this only works for snap to grid. This is not anything that can be used with nudge. And so spend some time, really work on this, give it a go, understand what it does, how it works. And I believe that this will help you tremendously. Okay, I'll give you some time to work on that. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve you at the highest level. I'm going to see you on the next module. Take care.